Hi, I'm Ruth Rickey, and today I'm going to show you one of the newest, coolest flowers from Caljava. I mean, would you look at this thing? It's like as big as my head, right? I mean, it's huge. This is their 6-inch peony, and it's designed to go on the top of a cake, and I think it's like ridiculously beautiful. But I think it could be prettier. And so one of the things that I was talking to them about is that I like to do brush embroidery on the edges of the flowers and then paint those with SuperPearl, and it really pops. We did this on our TLC challenge when we did the black and white wedding cake, if any of you guys remember that one, when I assisted Pat Jacoby. And we ended up winning, and the flowers on that cake were done this way. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to take one petal, and I'm gonna pipe a little bit of royal icing right along the edge. Any royal icing recipe is going to be fine. You can use a tip. I'm just using what's handy. I didn't have any reason to dirty a tip because I'm only going to sit and pull a little bit in there. And then what I'm going to do next is pull slowly with my brush in towards the center. And that is going to give me some brush strokes that are covered in royal icing. Once this dries, I'm going to paint it, and you're going to be able to really see the beauty of all those brush strokes. I'm going to come around now to the side of the flower. And because there are so many petals, when I get all the way around, it should be dry enough for me to start painting immediately. It's one of the things I like about doing production work is that if I'm doing several roses or several anything, by the time I get to the last one, I'm ready to start back with the first thing. And that's always good, so that I'm not wasting my time, because time is money in the bakery. If your brush starts to get too globby, just wipe it off and start with a fresh brush again. When you do brush embroidery, there should be a little piping gel in your royal icing, and that will help it to stretch and move. When I go to paint, I'm going to use SuperPearl, which is a luster dust. Lusters have shimmers, whereas your petal dusts are flat and kind of matte. All right, now I have all my petals painted with a layer of royal icing. So I'm going to set those down and mix up my paint. And so I'm going to take some of the SuperPearl and add a little bit of alcohol. And I'm going to mix until I get to a paint that's a good consistency. I want it to be creamy enough to go on, and thick enough that it's going to give me a really beautiful pearl effect. I don't want it to be too thin, because then you just really lose the beauty of that pearl sheen. And I'm going to start on one of my dry petals. And I want to only put this where I put the royal icing. And so I'm just bringing it right on top of my brush strokes, and it's going to highlight those brush strokes. We're not doing the entire petal. We're not going all the way around it. I'm just getting that top edge, because that's what's going to be noticeable to your bride, and that's what's going to frame the flower, and so that's going to be plenty. If your paint starts to dry up, add a little bit more alcohol. If it gets too watery, add a little bit more petal dust. Luster dust. You want to keep working until you've got a paint at the right consistency so that it's going to show up. I think this is a pretty technique to do on any of the Caljava flowers that are a little more open, like a dog rose, their lilies. The anemones would be beautiful as well. Even a tulip might be really pretty done with this technique. Anything like that where you can get the emphasis of the petals and really follow the top outline of them, those are made for this. Okay, so now I have a beautiful framed piece of art here with this. It's just so pretty, but now the center looks a little dull by comparison. So what I'm going to do is add a little bling. I could paint this with SuperPearl, but instead I'm going to take my piping gel and I'm going to paint on a little bit of piping gel and then dip it into a rainbow disco dust. And the disco dust is going to add another dimension of sheen and shine onto the tips of my stamens, and it's only going to stick where I've put the piping gel. And what I'm going to do is dunk these into the disco dust. This is going to look like a formal flower, perfect for the bride. Now the stamens are as dressed as my petals. All I have to do now is add it to the top of my cake. And I've pre-poked my hole into the cake and inserted a straw so that I'm not putting the wire down into the cake itself. And I can arrange the petals however I want. They can be more open, more closed. I can bring my stamens to life. Gorgeous. And there's my stunning display, perfect for any bride.